This is the real story of the billionaire twins that drove away 23 nannies, 5 psychologists, and even their own grandparents. Everyone thought they were simply impossible. Until one day, their maid showed up with her 3-year-old daughter. And that little girl did something nobody expected. Something so simple, so innocent. It completely broke the twins in the best possible way. If you've ever dealt with a child who just won't listen, or you're just curious how a toddler managed to do what no adult could, stick around, because this story will change the way you think about connection. Let me set the scene for you. Marcus and Sophia were not ordinary children. They were 7 years old, the only heirs to a $3 billion real estate empire. Their father, Adrian Vance, was the kind of billionaire who owned buildings you could see from space. Their mother had passed away 2 years ago in a private plane accident. And since then, the twins had turned into little hurricanes. But not the sad kind of hurricane you might expect. They were angry. They were loud. They were destructive in a way that made grown men cry. Adrian had hired the best. Child therapists from Switzerland, nannies trained by British royalty, even a former Navy SEAL who specialized in extreme behavior correction. Each one lasted about a week. The twins would throw food, scream for hours, lock themselves in rooms, and once, they even set the living room curtains on fire just to see what would happen. Every expert said the same thing. These children need time, patience, and structure, but none of them could actually deliver. Because the twins had a secret superpower. They could smell fear, and they could smell fake kindness from a mile away. So Adrian did what any overwhelmed billionaire would do. He threw money at the problem. He offered $1 million to anyone who could successfully calm his children for an entire month. People came from all over the world. A famous child whisperer from Japan, a former circus clown who claimed he could make any kid laugh, an opera singer who thought music would soothe them. The twins made the clown cry. They threw shoes at the opera singer. They told the child whisperer that his methods were boring and walked away mid-session. Adrian was at his breaking point. He had started avoiding his own home. He slept in his office more nights than not, because every time he came home, there was a new disaster waiting. That's where Rosa comes in. Rosa was the maid. She had been working for the Vance family for about 6 months, but she worked the night shift. She came in after the twins were asleep, cleaned the massive penthouse, and left before sunrise. Adrian had barely said 2 words to her the entire time. Rosa was a single mother. She had a 3-year-old daughter named Lucia, and because Rosa couldn't afford a babysitter, she sometimes had to bring Lucia with her to work. It was against the rules, but Rosa was careful. Lucia would sleep in a small corner of the laundry room, wrapped in a blanket while Rosa cleaned, and for months nobody ever knew. But one night Lucia woke up. She was thirsty, and Rosa was on the other side of the penthouse, vacuuming the master bedroom. So little Lucia, in her pink pajamas with the bunny ears, wandered out of the laundry room. She walked down the hallway, past the 20-foot ceilings and the priceless artwork, and she heard something, crying. Not loud crying, the kind of crying that someone tries to hide. It was coming from behind a big wooden door at the end of the hall. Lucia pushed the door open. It was the twins' playroom, and inside, sitting on the floor in the dark, were Marcus and Sophia. They weren't throwing things. They weren't screaming. They were just sitting there, back to back, crying silently. They had just had a huge fight with their father. Adrian had yelled at them for breaking a chandelier. And for the first time in a long time, the twins felt genuinely sad. Not angry, not bored, just sad. Most adults would have run to get help, or tried to say something comforting, like, "It's okay," or "Do you want to talk about it?" But Lucia was 3. She didn't know any of those phrases. She didn't know that these children were billionaires. She didn't know that they had scared away everyone. All she saw were 2 big kids who were crying, and she knew exactly what to do. Lucia walked over. She didn't say a word. She sat down right next to Marcus, who was the bigger twin, and she leaned her little head against his arm. Then she reached out her tiny hand and placed it on Sophia's knee. That's it. No magic trick, no clever sentence, just her presence. And the twins stopped crying, not because they were shamed or distracted, but because for the first time in 2 years, someone had approached them without fear, without an agenda, without wanting to fix them or control them. Lucia didn't want anything. She wasn't being paid. She wasn't trying to prove a point. She was just there. Marcus looked down at this tiny toddler leaning on him. Sophia looked at the little hand on her knee, and something inside them shifted. Marcus whispered, "Who are you?" Lucia looked up with big brown eyes and said, "I'm Lucy. You sad?" Marcus nodded. And Lucia said the words that no expert had ever thought to say. It's okay to be sad. My daddy went away too. Mama says sad is just love with no place to go. Now imagine being a 7-year-old who lost their mother and has been told by every adult around you to be strong or don't cry or let's do an activity. And then a 3-year-old tells you that sad is just love with no place to go. Marcus started crying again, but this time it was different. Sophia moved closer, and the three of them sat in the dark playroom for almost an hour. Lucia didn't try to make them laugh. She didn't try to leave. She just stayed. And eventually, Marcus and Sophia fell asleep, each holding one of Lucia's hands. Rosa found them like that. She panicked at first, thinking her daughter would be fired. But when she told Adrian what happened the next morning, the billionaire didn't say anything for a full 30 seconds. He just stared at the security footage from the playroom camera. He watched his feral, untamable children fall asleep holding the hand of a maid's toddler. And then he did something he hadn't done in years. He cried. Adrian didn't fire Rosa. He promoted her. He gave her a raise that meant she never had to worry about money again. But more importantly, he asked Lucia to come back every day. He made a new rule. Lucia was not a babysitter. She was not an employee. She was simply allowed to be there. And the twins changed. Not overnight in a magical movie way, but slowly. They started eating dinner without throwing food. They started speaking in normal voices. They even started calling Lucia their little sister. The key moment came 3 months later. A famous child psychologist came to interview the twins for a study on grief. She asked Marcus what had made the biggest difference. Marcus thought for a minute and said, "Lucy didn't try to make me stop being sad. She just sat with me. Everyone else wanted me to get better. Lucy just wanted me to not be alone." And that is the secret that no amount of money can buy. Adults, especially rich adults, are always trying to fix things. They see a problem and they throw solutions at it. Therapists, punishments, rewards, distractions. But children don't need to be fixed. They need to be seen. Lucia didn't have a degree. She didn't have a technique. She had something better. She had zero expectations. She didn't care if Marcus and Sophia were billionaires or beggars. She didn't care if they were well-behaved or wild. She just offered her tiny presence and said, "You sad? That's okay. I'll sit here." Here's the truth that this story teaches us. Whether you're raising a billionaire's twins or your own kids at home, the thing that calms a storm more than anything else is not control. It's company. It's showing up without an agenda. It's saying, "I'm not here to change you. I'm just here." That little 3-year-old knew something most of us forget as we grow up. People don't need you to solve their pain. They need you to witness it. So next time you're dealing with a screaming toddler, an angry teenager, or even a difficult coworker, try the Lucia method. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to argue. Just sit next to them. Put a hand on their knee and say nothing. You might be shocked at what happens. If you want to see more stories about unexpected heroes and the tiny moments that change everything, click that video on your screen right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss this next one.